Going to go ahead and get our next session started. So our next session will be delivered by Barbara Hoskins Sakamoto and Karen Frazier Tsai. They are the co-authors of one of the world's best-selling courses for young learners, Let's Go. And aside from that, they have decades of experience teaching and training teachers such as yourself. So we're very lucky to have them here with us today. So Barbara and Karen, I will turn it over to you. And teachers, enjoy the session.
Hi, everyone. Barbara, I'm not sure we're hearing you.
I thought I had turned both of those on.
There.
Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so once again, welcome. We're glad you're here with us today. I'm Barbara Hoskins Sakamoto.
And I'm Karen Frazier Tsai. We can't wait for spending time with you today to talk about the magic of communication. And we're excited to talk about what your students feel like when they find those right words in English. You know that magical feeling, the thrill when you finally figure out how to say something in English or in another language. It's really great when you know that someone has actually understood you, isn't it? Well, we've both experienced that kind of language learning situation. And I will say that my magical moment occurred with my mother-in-law in Taiwan. Now, she spoke only Taiwanese and a little bit of Mandarin, and I spoke only English. But I was learning Mandarin. And one day, my mother-in-law called me on the telephone, and she said, head. And so I said, toe. And then she said, nose. And I said, 鼻子. And then she said, mouth. And I said, 嘴巴. Now that was all we said to each other. But we were so excited that we had finally been able to communicate directly with each other. It was truly a magical moment.
Well, I've studied a little bit of a lot of languages over the years. You know, Spanish, French, Greek, Latin, Old English, Middle English, you get the idea. And I got really good grades in all of those courses. But I never had to use them to talk to anybody. In fact, I never really was motivated to learn a foreign language for communication until there were things that I wanted to say to people I wanted to talk to in that foreign language. And that's what motivated me to find my words finally. So from our experiences as language learners and teachers, both good and bad, we've identified 3 keys that create magic moments in communication. And in this session, we want to share those with you.
So those 3 keys, we call them friends. They are accuracy, fluency, and creativity. And it is the kind of thing that really brings that magic to your classroom when you have all 3 of them in the classroom. Now, what is accuracy? Well, it's knowing the language and knowing its meaning. And what is fluency? Fluency is being able to use the language. And of course, creativity is being able to use the language to express what you want to say or to do something that you want to do. And it is these 3 friends that work together in their classroom. So let's take a look at accuracy. Like I said, accuracy is knowing the language and its meaning. And how do students develop that kind of accuracy in a new language? Well, we need to model accurate language. It's much easier to focus on accuracy when the language load is rather light than to put it off and then later on, after you've taken shortcuts, have to reteach everything as the language gets more complicated because they are not able to manage it yet. So start out teaching accuracy from the beginning when the language load is low. Now, this is a student working on accuracy. He really liked working with blocks, and he loved making his own popsicle sticks with words and stickers and pictures to help him remember what the words were. And then he enjoyed using word cards and the student cards from the book. And what he liked to do was put them all together to create new sentences following the pattern that we had been teaching. And he would do this over and over. And he was so excited because he was using things that he had created. And now he could put them together in a variety of orders to make a new sentence. And it was a lot of fun for him. It was a magical moment. And he kept practicing it and practicing it. And the more he did, the more accurate he became and the more fluent he became.
Okay, so here's an example using Let's Go, a book we're kind of familiar with. So we want to show you how we build accuracy, fluency, and creativity starting from the course book in one lesson. So first, you're going to teach the conversation. Now, you can do this in many different ways. You can start with your books closed and have students learn the song first, or you can have them listen to the conversation and identify words that they recognize. You can open the book and have students use the pictures on the page to help support the meaning of the words. And however you do it, you're going to have students listening to the conversation, singing the conversation, doing the conversation, and then using the language from the conversation in an activity before you do anything else with the language on the page. So it's a lot of repetition built in. But we know that students need a lot of repetition. So we want students to become confident in using the language independently with natural speed, intonation, and rhythm. So once we've developed some of that fluency, we can help students personalize the language. So here we're using a pocket chart, and we take the language from the conversation, and students are personalizing it to talk about their own friends. We're using picture cards for the language that they may not know how to read yet, because we want to focus on one new thing at a time. Once they've built the language using the pocket chart, depending on the level of your class, students can write stories about their friends. Or if the students are really young, they can dictate stories to you and you can write them. And just to save my own pride, I'm not going to tell you whether my student wrote the story or whether that's my handwriting. And in this class, we separated the pictures and the stories, put the pictures in the middle. We all read the stories together and guessed which picture went with each story. Finally, students recorded their stories. Now, one thing I learned is when I told students, okay, I want you to rehearse your stories until you feel ready to be recorded. I'm pretty sure if I had said, I want you to practice reading your stories 20 times, the reaction I got might not have been very enthusiastic. But as soon as it was rehearsal and not practice, students wanted to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse to the point where I would say, okay, are you ready? No, please let us rehearse some more. And rehearsal creates magic in the classroom, more than just magic moments.
So studies have shown that students who have a chance to focus on both the form of the language as well as the meaning do much better than those that focus on just the form, as in the grammar or grammar translation, or just on the meaning, as in an immersion situation. Now, it doesn't mean teaching grammar outright. You don't teach them the terms. But what you want to do is draw their attention to some of the differences in the language that they are learning from the language that is their native language. And this helps the students learn the new language much better when they understand that there is this difference. So we have an activity that we would like you to do with us on the next slide. We want you to answer some questions. And what we'll do is we will ask the questions, give you some time to write them down in the chat, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about them.
So write your answers, not the questions.
I mean, answer the questions, yes. Are you ready? The first one is, are you happy? And go ahead and write it down in the chat.
Your answer.
The answer.
Next. Do you like ice cream?
Next. Can you dance?
Will you go camping?
Have you ever been to Seoul?
Would you like to go to Hawaii?
We're getting great responses here.
Okay. Great answers.
All righty.
Oops, why are we getting, okay, thank you.
So, teachers sometimes encourage their students to answer with just a short yes or a short no, like many of you are doing in the chat. And let's take a look at the next slide and see what else we might consider doing. It sounds like a good strategy to just answer with a short answer. However, I mean, it's nice because students quickly learn how to do that. Parents are happy because their children are talking in English, and it's easy for you. However, remember, even when you answer with just a yes or a no, you already know what is implied that you left out. But your students do not know that unless you teach them. When are they going to learn that? Only if you teach them the full answer first. So eventually, if they don't get that full answer from the beginning, as they learn more English, or they learn to read and learn to write, they're going to need to have the full form. So why not teach them the full form in the beginning when the language load is light and it's much easier for them to attain the accuracy?
Yeah, eventually students have to learn the full forms or they end up quitting English. So if you can start out, we believe in teaching one new thing at a time. Let this be your one new thing, and then you can build on it. So here is an example of teaching accuracy with phonics. Okay, so students, again, we do one new thing at a time. So we use familiar language to teach phonics so that students only need to match the sounds to letters. They don't have to learn the meanings of the word on top of that. So they don't have to learn a new vocabulary word plus the sound of the word plus the letters that make up those sounds. Okay, so they learn the phonics words. We use the phonics words in a chat, and then students create word cards using the words on the page to practice writing and matching the letters on the page to the letters that they're writing. Because English is very different to write than Japanese is, where these students are. Once we have the word cards, we can play games with the word cards. You can do like slap or concentration, memory games, or any, Uno. You can, any card game you wanted to do, you can create with the card games. And then we work on pronunciation, because if students repeat the words to me or to each other, everybody understands everything. But we started using Siri in this case. Any virtual assistant will do. And the students found it a lot more challenging to get the virtual assistant to understand their pronunciation than me. Can we play that video? Video number 1. Here's an example.
Hello.
Hi there.
Mom.
I don't know who your mother is.
Mom. My. Ma. いけてる。
I just don't get this whole gender
い
thing.
けてる。合ってるよ。ほら。
Okay, so you can see that Siri is very understanding. She'll listen as many times as they have to say it. And it was a great reinforcement for them. Now, if you have any difficulty seeing these videos, we're going to give you a link at the end, and all of the videos plus videos of activities we're not showing are online.
Okay, so to summarize what we've been talking about so far, it's really important to teach one new thing at a time with the students. You don't want to overwhelm them with a lot of new language all at the same time. So how do we do that? We introduce new vocabulary with familiar language patterns. And the reverse, when we're introducing new language patterns, we do it with familiar vocabulary. And then when you want to introduce a new skill, like the stories that they were just doing in the pocket charts and then the stories that they created afterwards, we used language the children already knew as they were learning how to write a story. And it is always important to recycle the language, to review what they already know and put it in new contexts. And it's important to reinforce the language with lots and lots of practice. And of course, it's important to help them remember what they already know by having a remember and a review at the beginning of every lesson.
Okay, fluency is the fun friend. And we're talking about three friends: accuracy, fluency, and creativity. And fluency is the fun one because students need a lot of repetition in order to remember the new words and be able to use them confidently. Research shows that they need anywhere from 16 to 30 chances to use a word before they can use it confidently. But all practice is not created equal. Okay, if you simply hold up a card and say, repeat after me, this is an apple, and the students say, this is an apple, you're not helping the students gain any sort of fluency. You're helping them become better parrots. But if you can use fast-paced drills that look like games, students can get a lot of practice in a really short amount of time. So here's an example of a game. This is 1, 2, 3 pickup. And this is, okay, we're going to show you the video in a moment, but what we do is we put vocabulary cards face down on the floor. And the students take turns doing rock, scissors, paper, 1, 2, 3, or if you want to practice another pattern, I like, 1, 2, 3. You can have them repeat anything that you want a lot of repetition. And the winner of rock, scissors, paper picks up a card and asks the question, and the partner answers. You can do it really in teams where you've got a group and they're all using the same cards, or you can do it in pairs a little bit slower paced. So here's a couple of examples.
Do you like cow? Yes, I Let's sing. 1, 2, 3. What is it? It's a teddy bear. 1, 2, 3. What is it? It's a dog. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so I was going to show you here. You can see that in the right-hand picture, all the cards are in the middle there. And all the students are playing off of that same pile. So what happens is the game goes very, very fast because students want to have as many chances to ask questions as possible, because the winner is the pair who has collected the most cards at the end of the game. So you can play it a couple of different ways. Vocabulary race is another example of an activity that goes very fast and includes a lot of repetition. You see 3 examples here. You can play it with the vocabulary picture in your course book. Student 1 starts with number 1, student 2 starts with number 8. They work from end to end, and when they meet in the middle, so they might be saying, it's a crayon, it's a marker, it's a course, well, it's a notebook, and student 2 is saying their pencil cases, their notebooks, their markers. And then when they meet in the middle somewhere, they'll do rock, scissors, paper, 1, 2, 3. The winning student, rock, beat, scissors. So student 1 gets to stay, and student 2 goes back to the beginning and starts again. And the winner is the student who gets to the opposite end first. You can play it with teacher cards on the floor, students walking. You can play it with student cards on the floor where students point and go from end to end. You can have students repeating the words. If they're very young, you can have students using full sentences. If they're older and they need the challenge. If you have a mixed ability class, the younger student or the weaker student can just say the word, and the better student can use it in a sentence to sort of handicap the play. And there's videos of this on the YouTube channel we're going to share with you later if you want to see it.
Now, a lot of what we've been talking about has to do with these fast-paced, fun, engaging drills. And we also have something that we use called the 6-second drills. These were created by our late co-author, Ritsuko Nakata, and they are always a classroom favorite. And yes, it practices a lot of language in a short time using natural speed and intonation and rhythm. And the repetition becomes play. And so the kids get lost in this fun of playing with the language. Now we have a video. This is video number 3, I believe, to share with you that will show you Ritsuko doing some 6-second drills. And we'd like you to just follow along as you are watching her. Join in what she's doing.
Okay, ready, go. What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? Yes, okay. One more time. Ready, go. What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? Finish. Very good. Now say it 3 times, clap 3 times, and touch. Give a high five to both sides of your neighbors. Ready, go. What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? High five. Hey, finish. Very good. This time, say it 3 times, rub your tummy 3 times, and say finish. Ready, go. What do you like? What do you like? What do you like? Finish. Good. All right. How many times did you say what do you like? Many, many times. Do you think your kids will learn it now? Okay.
Isn't it great watching Ritsuko do these 6-second drills? I mean, it's every time we watch this video, we still get excited. And it's fun for your students, and it's fun for those of us that are in the audience as well when we go to presentations to do this kind of an activity. Now, in that particular situation, Ritsuko was doing just the question. But in the next part of talking about the 6-second drill, we want to let you know you can do questions and answers. So looking at Let's Go 5 from the 5th edition, this is the lesson on foods. And you can do a 6-second drill using these foods, and you can practice the language pattern that is there with the present perfect, but you can also go back to what do you like and use that to practice these foods. Remember, we say introduce new foods with language patterns that are familiar. So we're going to do a 6-second drill using what do you like and, or I'm sorry, do you like, and some new foods. Barbara.
Okay, so basically, yeah, we have a different question here than we had thought there would be, but it works exactly the same way.
Yes.
And these illustrations are from the Teachers Resource Center. They're free downloads. Well, they're downloads from the Teachers Resource Center to go along with the editable worksheets and activities that you can adapt to your classes. So we like using these illustrations to extend students' vocabulary. Okay, so we're going to take turns. Each of us will ask 3 questions, answer 3 questions. When we finished, we'll say finish. Imagine that all of us are in a room, and the first 2 of us that finished 3 questions, 3 answers, and raise our hands and say finished are the winners, which is how we would do it in a classroom. So Karen,
Yes.
do you like durian?
No, I don't. No, I don't. Barbara, do you like noodle soup?
Yes, I do. Do you like sushi?
Yes, I do. Do you like Chinese buns?
Yes, I do. Do you like soy milk?
Yes, I do. And do you like dumplings?
Yes, I do. Finished.
Yay, we finished
Okay.
it.
Now, you can see there was no pressure on us to hurry. So we could take our time reacting to the answers and thinking about what question we were going to ask. If we were doing this in a classroom, it would be really competitive because the first students to say finished and sit down are the winners. Then Karen and I knew we'd be the winners anyway because we can't see how fast you're doing it, but that's how it works. Okay, so 6-second drills can be for question patterns, sentence patterns, and also question and answer patterns.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. Now, something else that helps your students become much more fluent is using music. And we all know that. Through the years, we've all learned languages with music. But did you know that music actually stimulates the same part of the brain as language learning? So where you learn music, you also are stimulating the brain to help with the language learning. And that's one of the reasons why music is such a great thing to use to help the students develop fluency. And then as you listen to more music, you will hear the natural rhythm, the natural sounds, the patterns in the language, and you will adapt to that rhythm. So in this particular video or picture, I have a group of very young children that are learning English, starting with songs. And this particular flannel board that I'm holding shows a camel on the flannel board. Now this camel is named Sally, and we are practicing in the song the language pattern, Sally the camel has 5 humps. And we change from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and no is the word that's used for 0. Well, the kids loved it. The flannel board reinforced the song, and they loved it because they could reach up and they could point to the camel and they could point to the humps as we were removing the humps. And the funniest thing at the very end is that the kids found out Sally the camel wasn't a camel at all. Sally was actually a horse. And they laughed and they wanted to sing this song every single time that they came to class. Now, again, these were very young children. They were 1 and 2 years old, but they were picking up the rhythm and the pattern and the flow and the words of English and some of the question patterns and the sentence patterns from the songs. And it is a great way to help your students just get that natural feel for the language.
Another thing you can do to give students more practice with language and more connection time with English, or more exposure to it. One of my favorites are milk carton cubes. These are simply 2 milk cartons cut off and put together to make a strong square and covered with paper. And I love them because they're free and they are very adaptable and they are very easy to replace if anything happens. We start out by using them for phonics. I let students choose the letters they want. And since there are not enough sides of the cubes for all of the alphabet letters, they usually start out by choosing like X and Z and Y, because those are really fun letters to say. We play the game where they have 3 chances to roll the cubes to see if they can build a word. And after we've played the game a few times, I'll say, can we change the letters? And pretty soon they discover that letters like T and R and B are much more frequent in the words that they know. So it's a great activity for that. You can advance to 3-word sentences. Then you can have 4-word sentences where we wanted to practice like third person singular and versus an, and students had to create the cubes. And finally, we get up to 5-word sentences that reinforce adjective, noun, and verb order in sentences, and show the importance of conjunctions like and. Projects are another really great way for students to extend their contact time with English, really deepen their understanding of the language, and get a lot of repetition. In this class, I told students we were going to make some kind of origami, and I wanted them to come up with the instructions for making it. They chose to make a fortune teller, one of those things. And first, they came up with the instructions, which it was very, very hard to come up with those in English. We did pictures. They made a slide. Then they also did a video. And then they compared the two to see which one was easier to understand. Then we ended up using the fortune teller in class. So they took turns, they filled in the colors and the numbers and the fortunes and ended up telling each other's fortunes. Now, all of these things we're showing you that have not had videos do have videos on the YouTube channel. So if you want to see the students, if you want to learn how to make a fortune teller, there's some good instructions from the students. If you want to see how they used it in class, there's also videos of that, along with the sentence cubes.
So as you've seen, accuracy and fluency really are not linear. They are intertwined, and the students become familiar with one pattern while they are learning how to be accurate with new vocabulary. And you also see that students are able to use language creatively to express things that they want to say and to do things they want to do. Now, remember, how we teach really does affect how well our students learn. So we want to make sure to balance the focus on form and meaning. And we definitely want to use gestures and movements and activities. I see a lot of you talking about how useful it is to use activities, and that some of you have done the fortune teller in Taiwan. Anything that you can do to get them involved and moving really does help them learn. Remember to teach whole sentences and question forms, and to practice language with a natural speed, intonation, and rhythm. And when you use the songs and chants, that's what you're doing. You're giving them an opportunity to hear a native speaker speaking the language with a natural rhythm and intonation. And one of the most important keys to create magic in your classroom is to have your students talking to each other, not just to the teacher. They need to interact with each other. Now, creativity is our third friend. And creativity, it goes along with accuracy and fluency. And those two, accuracy and fluency, form the foundation of language for the students then to take it and make it their own, to be able to talk about those things that they want to talk about, and to do with the language the things they want to do. And in the next slide, that is exactly what was happening, trying to help the students find the words they need and they want. I had a number of students that really liked cars and trucks and moving around a city. And so I brought in a flannel poster that had those vehicles that they could place anywhere they wanted in the city. And then they could talk about what they see and what they have, what kind of vehicles they have, and what they wanted. And because they made their popsicle sticks and they designed pictures to help them remember the words that were on it, they were able to create all kinds of language to talk about where they moved those vehicles on that flannel poster. And it was magic because they were doing the things that they enjoyed with that poster and then talking about it.
Another thing that you can do, back to cubes again. Okay, these are milk carton cubes, but they're story cubes now. And students were learning about stories having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and generally having characters, locations, and magic objects. And so students had to agree collaboratively which 6 characters we would have on the cubes, which 6 locations we would have on the cubes, and which 6 magic objects we would have on the cubes. I would not have chosen the same ones that they did, and so that's why it's important to let students make those decisions. So the first thing we did was roll the 3 cubes, or a student rolled the cubes, and students would write a sentence using all 3 items, the character, the location, and the magic object, in a sentence. So for example, Leonardo da Vinci uses glue in the museum. Mona Lisa lives in a volcano and she has a TV. Mona Lisa takes rocket number 3 and she goes to a volcano. We went back and we identified the subjects, the verbs, and the objects in the sentences. And so we had a lot of grammar practice, but students laughed the entire time. The next stage, students roll the cubes again. And student 1 writes the first sentence in the story. So Mona Lisa went to outer space, but she forgot her glue. Student 2 adds the next sentence. So she gets glue at home. Student 3 adds the next sentence. Then she goes to bed in outer space because she has glue. And then finally, the last student knows all stories need an ending because beginning, middle, end. And so Mona Lisa is shocked. So again, it was a really simple activity that students were so engaged in doing that they didn't focus on the fact that they were working on grammar.
Now, did you ever get so engrossed in what you were doing that you totally got lost yourself? I mean, you were focused on one thing and things may have been going on around you, but you weren't paying attention to that because you were engrossed in what you were doing. That is flow. And that is what we really want to have happen when our students are working with language that they know. We want them to get involved in the activities so much so that they don't know they're doing a drill or some kind of a grammar practice. They're just involved in the activity. So our aim as teachers should be to create that flow, that involvement in our classroom.
Okay, so here's an example. Guessing games are always a winner, right? So here are close-up images of everyday objects that students already know the words for in English. And so we're going to give you a chance too. There's 6 objects here. What do you think they are? What is it? So if you can write your guesses in the chat, we'll give you the answers in just a moment. So what do you think number 1 is? What do you think number 2 is? What's number 3? What's number 4? What's number 5? And what is number 6? Those are some good guesses.
There are great guesses going on there. Oh, interesting.
Well, you guys are really good guessers.
It's fun to see the guesses.
Yes. And even when you're wrong, guessing means that you are anticipating language. So in order to make a guess, you're doing some pretty high-level thinking. Okay, so everybody has had a chance. Let's go over to the answers and see how you did. Did you guess right? Number 1 is a flower, right? Number 2 is a car. 3 is a bicycle. 4 is a puddle. 5 is an umbrella. And 6 is my dog, Max.
There were some really great guesses there.
They were really great guesses there. Now, I often will have students take pictures. I can have them do pictures as part of their homework, but I always do the editing for the close-ups just because it's more efficient.
Now remember, that's a fun activity, but before you do it, you want to make sure that your students understand the language first. So in the book, these are student cards from Let's Go 5th edition, where you would be practicing the language first before you do the activity with the pictures. And another thing you can do with pictures is when you are out somewhere, take some pictures. It can be of cloud shapes in the sky or of tree forms like these pictures that we've got on this slide. I took these pictures last month when we were traveling because I thought they were such interesting shapes. And this is where you can let your students be creative and imagine what it is they are seeing. So what do you think you see in those 2 pictures? Take a moment and write in the chat.
Oh, a giraffe and a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I kind of saw it. I kind of saw a dinosaur.
Yeah, I did too. I didn't see the giraffe, but that's good. Well, I will share with all of you that the picture on the right, beside it being a dead tree, yes, they're dead trees and tree forms, but the picture on the right reminded me of my daughter's dog because the shape of his head is similar to the top of that tree form. So I chuckled as I was looking at it. But I do see a dragon. I do see a dinosaur. All righty. Go ahead, Barb.
Okay. So eventually in creativity, if you've done a good job of teaching students accurate forms and giving them lots of room to practice, they can use the language to learn what they want in English and to express what they want in English. So in this class, students had to choose a topic to make a poster. And this girl wanted to write about Harry Potter. She was a huge Harry Potter fan. And so she again turned to the same virtual assistant to get information for her poster. So topic was really easy. Getting Siri to understand her question about the topic was not quite as easy. So let's play the video. This is our final video.
Do you like Harry Potter?
I've never really thought about
なんだこの人は Do you know Harry Potter?
it. This is about you, not me.
Do you know Harry Potter?
Here's some
出た出た Do you know Harry Potter?
I'm sorry.
Reporter. Do you know Harry Potter? ポッター出た Do you know Harry Potter?
Here's some information.
出た出た出た
Okay, so this was a perfect example of a student finding her words. Okay, she loves Harry Potter. She wanted to tell everybody else what she wanted she loved about Harry Potter. So she had the vocabulary to be able to ask her question. She had the sentence structures to allow her to express what she wanted to ask. And she had the fluency to be able to ask Siri over and over and over again. And then she was able to put all of that together in a very lovely poster. And so this was her final project. And this was how she found the words to be able to share something that she really wanted to share with other people in a foreign language.
And it really was fun to see how excited she got when she finally got Siri to understand her question and to give her the information. And that's really what we're talking about. We want to create opportunities for our students, whether they are the very young students or the older students in 5th grade, 6th grade or higher, but give them that opportunity to practice the language and come with those magic moments where they realize, oh, I did it, I got it. This person understood me, or Siri understood me because I got the information that I really wanted. So we've come to the end of our short presentation. And again, we want you to remember that there are 3 friends that work together in your classroom, and it's accuracy, fluency, and creativity. And to have that all happen and to have those special aha, I found the right word moments, it's our job as teachers to make sure we teach them the full forms. Teach only one thing, one new thing at a time with things that are already familiar. Include lots of repetition and practice, using the new things with what they already know. And make sure we balance our focus on form and on meaning. You don't want them just doing grammar or grammar translation or just being immersed without getting some kind of knowledge of the language forms. And as we said, create opportunities for flow. Let the kids get so involved in the activities that you choose that they completely forget that they are learning the language, but they're actually using the language. Encourage student autonomy, and last but not least, encourage the students to make the language their own, to be able to use it, to talk about things that are important for them, and to do with the language what they want to do to get information.
And again, once more, if you want to see videos of the activities that we were showing you, they are on my YouTube channel, Barbara Hoskins Sakamoto. So I'm sure I think it'll be in the chat.
I think so.
Yep, there it is. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have time, I think, a little bit.
Little bit of time. Yeah.
Yes, we do have a couple questions already queued up for you. So let me put one on screen. We've got a couple minutes, so we should be able to get to a few of the questions. Hold on 1 second. Okay, there you go. So can you both elaborate on utilizing the usage of syllables in learning phonics? Thank you very much in advance, from Sarah.
Okay. Okay, well, I would say one of the things that you can do is I found that clapping to divide up syllables, or the other thing we did was having students create phonics chants, replacing the words with other vocabulary words, because then they have to match the number of syllables in order to make the chant work. There's an example on the YouTube channel of students doing these and those chant. And so it was a lot of really close-up work on syllables to find words that would match the same space in the same part of the chant. Poetry does the same thing. So Karen, you got anything to add to that?
You can adapt a lot of songs and chants and have them change the words and see if they can match that syllable rhythm. that's in the chant with words, other words that will work in the chant. It's fun. They really enjoy that creativity.
Okay.
All
Another-
right, great. We've got time for one more question, so I'll pop it on the screen, and it's about teaching children 5 years old if they should be learning grammar. So
If you mean teaching grammar terms, then no. No.
Absolutely no.
There's
Yeah.
no, for one thing, they're going to end up learning grammar in junior high school in their first language. So there's no reason they need to learn the grammar terms in English. But we do think it's important to focus on the form of language so they can see what's like different between their language and English. And in repeating the structures accurately, we are teaching grammar. All of language is grammar. But we're becoming aware of the grammar and using the grammar without labeling it as grammar.
And as we said, it's really important for them to get the flow, the feel of the language, to learn. If you play, especially with young children, if you are playing songs, music, they're going to pick up what is the natural language pattern that is in that song and any other song that you're doing. And so they will just assume this is the way you say it, which is a better way to start out with the children than to try to teach them grammar terms. They wouldn't understand the grammar terms. It's much better to do songs and chants and let them get the rhythm and the flow and the patterns in the songs.
So for example of an awareness activity, say we have the 4 cubes. So he has a clock, right? We want to work on students understanding the difference between has and have, and the difference between and an. And so each time the students roll the cubes, they have to decide if those words go together. And in the process of the game, they realize that he and she needs has, and I and we need have, without teaching subject-verb agreement explicitly. But it's a lot of practice and it's a lot of focusing on the form. The same thing to figure out that goes with clock and an goes with egg, right? That kind of thing. Okay, I hope that answers the question.
all right, well, thank you very much, Barbara and Karen. I think we're just about out of time to answer questions. So sorry to all the teachers if we couldn't get to your question this time. But thanks, Barbara and Karen, for a wonderful session, and we hope to have you back at another event soon.
We would love to. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us today.